All right, everybody, what's good? So as you may have noticed, my prediction wasn't exactly true. I ended up streaming through the Evo Awards to hopefully catch a 2XKO reveal, and it never happened. And that was like about 5 hours or so, which the show was good. I think it ran a little long, but definitely was a bummer when you kind of knew nothing was going to come, and then you kind of just had to sit through it, go through like 8 awards at a time, and go back to a trailer, so on and so forth. So 2XKO was not in the extended lineup. Were they ever expected to be in the extended lineup? I don't know. I'd be curious if we ever hear anything about that in the future. My hunch kind of says that they were, and we'll get to that in a second. Yeah, basically this happened. Just wanted to wait at that point because there's no point making a video saying like, hey, nothing happened, and we'll see when more stuff does. So I knew an update was coming in February no matter what. Or we all did because they said that. So I kind of wanted to wait for that. And what was extra weird about the Evo Award situation was leading up to it, like the week before, the game director Unconquerable popped into the Discord server for the first time since November 11th. And that was when we got that text post about like Jinx being in the next playtest and a couple other small things, what they planned on focusing on the most, so on and so forth. And yeah, so he didn't say anything, came back in, said what's up, explicitly, I think he even said he's not responding to anything. Yeah, like someone asked if this was like a tease, and he said, I just wanted to say hi, and it's been a minute. But then like a couple days went down, and I know this says yesterday, but this was like the following Monday that he did this. So like a few days later, he came back and said, hope everyone had an excellent weekend, just saying, hey, what's up? So that was a little weird. And then I think within a couple days, he then replies to someone on Twitter who said like, oh, I have a feeling we're getting news today. And this was, again, 2 days before Evo Awards, posted this emoji. Someone else said, please, we beg you, another emoji. And then literally it was just like radio silence from this point on. Me and my buddies were really convinced this was indicative that it would be in the Evo Awards. It just kind of made the most sense. But then kind of nothing happens. And then this week, was it yesterday? Early in the morning, I caught wind of these Italian news sites posting stories about a new Alpha Lab 2, but it like didn't link any art or link to any stories. They did link you back to the Alpha Lab sign up link, but I thought this was really weird. I saw just one at first, and then I heard there were a few more, and once you started checking across each of them, they had but basically all the same info. One had a little less than the other three, or the other two, and basically everything they said was like, hey, there's going to be Riot just announced there's going to be an Alpha Lab 2 in April. It's going to contain Jinx. We made some changes to Pulse, and we have a new fuse called Sidekick. They moved Pulse. Basically, they moved the Pulse auto combo thing off of a fuse, and you can choose in the settings now when on Champ Select whether you want to use it or not. So it's per person, not per team. You don't have to give up a fuse to use it. Maybe we'll talk about that in a future video. I personally don't love that change, but I don't hate it. And then the Sidekick fuse kind of sounds like almost like how Yumi works in League, where another player can basically just kind of sit on you or in the background and interact that way. So I would guess like you still do assists or something, maybe dynamic save, but it doesn't like swap you in, that type of stuff. And apparently the point character gets extra health, but you can never swap between the champs or anything. So my hope is that this is just a duo only thing and strictly just for beginners. I think that'd be totally fine. But if it's like, oh, this is our kind of viable way, like even if you just want to play solo and just play like one champ for the most part and just like pick assist in the background, like this is an option to do that. I hope they don't go that route. I hope it's duo only. So you basically always have to have 2 people doing it, and you can't just let someone just control one character and enter tournaments like that, because I think that'd be kind of lame. I enjoy it. It's a tag game. I want it to stay as a tag game. Yeah, all these leaks happen, and we're like, okay, what's going on? Like, it was like at midnight Eastern time when this happened, and these are all Italian sites posting it, and it was like 6 a.m. their time. So we're like, oh, maybe they got like the time zones mixed up or something, and they wanted to post it for noon Eastern, 6 p.m. Italian time. That would make a little more sense. And then like noon comes, nothing, and we're just like, what is going on? Like, is it even going to happen today? And then Unconquerable comes into the Discord and the Twitter and the Reddit, and he posts this breakdown basically acknowledging the leaks, which he acknowledges everything from the leaks except for the leaks did mention ranked would be in this next global test, Alpha Lab 2. He doesn't acknowledge that in this. He says you might have seen some other stuff we were cooking down at the bottom, but we're not ready to talk about it yet. But yeah, basically, they explain everything like behind these stories and kind of clarify some things. So rather than there being an actual big global playtest Alpha Lab 2 in March or April, right? Was it April? Either way, he basically says the February update was going to be talking about the next playtest, and we just wanted to clarify that. We were planning on running a larger scale global playtest next month, and the February update was going to cover what was in that playtest. Now that I'm reading that, that's really interesting because these news stories said the global playtest was going to be in April, and this says next month. So that's kind of confusing. I had not noticed that until now. I wonder what the explanation for that is. Because at first I thought just like, oh, like they meant to revoke this press release that went to Italy or something, and they didn't, or they gave them, or they hit send when they weren't supposed to on something. But that's really interesting. So even their plans didn't line up with the leaked story. But okay, either way, instead we're going to focus on running a much smaller one than Alpha Lab 1 while we build out the infrastructure needed to make sure we can get the game in even more players' hands later this year. Now this is like, this whole thing I guess you can see as like a negative because stuff's being delayed. This is the part that I hope they clarify soon. Because I understand, like, okay, a much smaller one than Alpha Lab. I think we can all assume that just means less players, less regions. It's going to be more focused. Maybe it's shorter too. I don't know. But that's going to still happen. He doesn't give a timing on here. So later on he says we're excited to tell you more as soon as we can, ideally next month. So maybe this does happen in April and it's smaller. I'm not too sure. We'll find out. Yeah, the fact that they're saying they're building out the infrastructure to make sure they can get the game in even more players' hands later this year. Like, this could be read in so many ways. This could mean just for the next test, like they still want to do a global test, and the next one they need this infrastructure to be able to handle that. Or this could mean for launch, this is what they're worried about. Or it could even mean... instead we're going to run a much smaller one than we built the infrastructure needed to make sure we can get the game. Yeah, so like this could also just be read like maybe this game's even delayed and like they're just worried about like getting it scaled up to the point that they can run a big open beta this year. So I think some clarification here would be good, especially when the leaked stories mentioned they're still committing to a 2025 launch, and nowhere in this message did they recommit to a 2025 launch. So Riot, if for whatever reason you catch this video, please consider giving us an update on the launch year and what this timeline looks like for the year. Like, when should we be confident we're getting launched? Should we be confident there's open beta by a certain quarter? Maybe that would be nice. Did this whole thing shift plans for open beta and launch? Maybe it didn't. Maybe this was a big closed global beta test next month and open beta is planned for July, and that's still on track and they're just doing a smaller one in the meantime and skipping that other big test. I don't know. So hopefully we don't have to wait a full other month to hear more about this. It sounds like this decision was pretty last minute. If just by the nature of these leaks with press releases going out, there wasn't time to like catch this error, and some of this stuff doesn't even line up between what they're saying here and the story. So who knows how long ago that stuff was sent out or what. I've heard rumblings that people were press was going out to get some of this info before EVO Awards. I don't know how true or not that is. So maybe going up to the EVO Awards even, they planned on having this at EVO and having it in open beta by a certain time, and then they realized they couldn't do it, so they had to go to a plan B. I really don't know, but it's really confusing, really interesting. A lot of people are dooming about this. I'm not at that point yet. I do think obviously this isn't good news that we're not having a big playtest when they wanted to. But if it is an infrastructure thing that is like either out of their hands, or even if it is in their hands, like, and they're just like running a bit behind on that part, but the whole game as a whole is shaping up really well, and champs are being made at a good pace and so on and so forth, I think that's totally fine. I'm lucky enough, even though I'm a very small, like extremely small content creator, I'm very lucky to be like reasonably confident I would be able to get in the next test. So at least for me, that's not a huge stress, but obviously I want you guys to be able to get in and play the game as much as I want everybody to be able to play it. So it's not great. It's just not It doesn't have me in full Doomer mode. And just until we see what the substantial update is ahead of the next tests and seeing like everything that's in it, whether it's additional new champs, additional new features, is it just ranked? Is it lobby customization? Is it whatever single player mode they have? Are they going to have tutorials in, combo trials? Like there's a lot of stuff that it could have, and the next update could be pretty substantive, and then all of a sudden everyone feels like way more confident it'll have like a pretty solid launch. So I just think it's too early to jump to any conclusions, but if I can give any advice to Riot, it's definitely you need to commit soon to whether this is hitting 2025 or not, because the amount of speculation around that is getting pretty crazy. It would be nice to know what your plans are at EVO. I'm already not going this year. I'll be going at Combo Breaker, so if you're going to other events, that'd be good to know too. But yeah, it's really the launch timing and then understanding like, did this affect everything and delay everything, or is this just like a temporary like change of plan situation? That's really what it comes down to me. Trying to see if I missed anything else here. Yeah, I asked if it's about just infrastructure. Oh yeah, so another thing, it's possible that this infrastructure change could be in regards to like cross-region play. I know a lot of people wanted to be able to play with friends in other regions, and with the server-based netcode, that makes things kind of hard. And I think it was region locked also last test. So maybe they're adding in an option for peer-to-peer or cross-region play, and that could cause a bunch of infrastructure delays. I could see that. Now to explain why they would do a smaller test than Alpha Lab 1 for the next one, because it's if you're redoing all the options for netcode and all that infrastructure, I'm not going to pretend I know the ins and outs of that. I know more front-end development stuff. I could see a world where while they're ramping that up, they have enough to scale and say like, hey, let's just run a smaller test. Let's focus it on content creators and high-level players, and like let's limit test the new combat changes and get a feel for that stuff while we work on the infrastructure, and then we can open it up to a wider group and then worry more about like tutorials and combo trials and beginner fuses and so on and so forth. So there's even a possibility that that's the outcome here, and it could be like a positive spin on this whole thing. I just think now, because of the nature of these leaks, they were forced to make a statement really quickly, and I think even given that situation, I think the news isn't terrible. Like, to be put on the spot like that and still to be able to say like, hey, like we wanted to do this, we can't do it, but it's not like we're just canceling it and we don't know when the next thing is. Like, we already have plans for a smaller one. Here's some info. Granted, it was leaked info, but like, hey, let's talk about these fuses and what our plans are. It sounds like they're still confident about it. They were confident enough to put it in a press release that went out to begin with. So none of this expresses a ton of concern to me. Now, if they come out in the next update and they're like, yeah, like this is just going to be like a 2-day test for like 100 people, whatever, enjoy, and we don't have any updates on when you're going to hear more from us. We're working our best on this infrastructure thing, but it's taking longer than we had hoped, and we will get back to you when we can commit to like a new launch time. Then that's like a lot really concerning, but I just don't think we're at that point yet, and I just think it's just a matter of waiting another month, unfortunately. And it might even be more than a month, because they say they're excited to tell you more as soon as we can, ideally next month. So don't get your hopes up until, like, I would say assume something early, mid-April at this point, and hopefully we're surprised and there's something sooner. I think they want to get... I'd be very surprised if they don't want to do everything in their power to have this next test happen before the City of the Wolves launch. That would make the most sense to me. There's going to be a little bit of a lull there for fighting games if you can get in between Capcom Cup and City of the Wolves launch. So that would make the most sense to me. And then hopefully we hit open beta by like July, August time, either right before or right after EVO, and then it could launch maybe by September and still be in time to be a main game at EVO France. It's we're waiting on more games to be shown for that. So yeah, not the most ideal news, but I definitely don't think it's time to doom, and we just kind of gotta hold out and wait and see what the next news is. So let me know what you guys think below, if you're full doomer mode, if you're feeling hopeful still, if you're just kind of in the middle. And yeah, I mean, if you made it this far, I really appreciate it. If you could drop a like and sub, comment, whatever it may be, and help me out, that would be super cool. Otherwise, I will probably I'd be surprised if there's any 2XKO videos in the next month. So expect the next couple weeks I'll be doing some leverless reviews. I I can do some for my Prism that I use for platform fighters. You've seen my custom 2XKO leverless in the past. I've had the Kitsune as well, so I'll probably make some on these. And we'll kind of get the content game rolling. So, yeah. Thanks again if you made it this far, and I'll catch you in the next one. Thanks, everybody.